Hi, in this video we are going to discuss one topic. It's safe to use the latest PoE specification IEEE 802.3 specification, aka PoE++. This new specification allows us to inject 90W high power into the single Ethernet cable and send to the edge device. In the previous PoE specification, PoE+, you only can use 30W from the PoE switch or PoE injector. It increased the 30W to 90W. It's a lot of increasement. This is the PoE switch and PoE injector. Both equipment are implement the IEEE 802.3 BT specification. It can output 90W through a single R345 network port. But its safety? So I think first thing we need to look into the specification from UL. What is the safe power from the human being? According to the UL 60950 specification, there are two conditions it need to make. We will consider the power is safe for human being. The first thing is the voltage. The voltage needs to be less than 60 volt. And if you check the PoE specification, all the PoE use the power less than 60 volt. Usually we will set the power to 55 or 57. So the voltage it will be safe for human being. The second condition is the power budget. The total power budget from single Ethernet port or the cable need to be less than 100 watt. So it will be okay, because in the latest PoE specification, it just set the maximum power budget to 90 watt from single Ethernet port is less than 100 watt. And it seems the new PoE specification is safe for human being. How about the PoE switch and PoE injector for another PoE equipment? I think it's better, let's just run a quick test. This is the PoE switch, so I'm going to use this PoE switch. And first I'll connect the PoE switch to one of the link port. So you link to the network video recorder. Then I will use the short punch code to link the port 1 and port 2 can output 90 watt. Port 3 and port 4 just the regular PoE port and output 30 watt maximum. Then I connect one of the high power port to the camera. This is not a high power camera because it just needs 10 watt. It doesn't need 90 watt. Once I connect it, I can see the indicators on. Now the camera is working. Yes, we are seeing the live video because this is a motorized zoom camera. It needs to zoom in and zoom out to get the best focus. That means even we use the 90 watt PoE switch, it works with just the old PoE standard, which requires 10 watts. There's no problem. We'll explain how it works. And okay, there's second thing. Let's say this is the non-PoE equipment. This is a router. It doesn't need the power at all. What if I just connect the cable, the PoE high power to this port? It's not going to fire this equipment, even you don't need the power. The reason is because in the standard PoE system, there's some stage it needs to perform before it releases the power. The first thing is the detection. Before the PoE switch or PoE injector send the power to the edge device, it needs to detect, make sure your edge device requires the power. Like this one, it doesn't need the power at all, right? We need to use the external power. This is just non-PoE equipment. When I connect the cable to one of the network port, it will not send the power. All the indicators off, it will never send the power because it knows this is the equipment doesn't require the power. This is called detection. The second stage is the classification. Before it sends the power, set the maximum power, it needs to classify what kind of PoE specification that like this camera can meet. This is just the PoE camera requires 10 watt. It doesn't need the high power, the new PoE standard. So it will set the maximum power budget to 30 watt. It's okay just for the new PoE standard, the 90 watt high power PoE switch or injector to work with the old PoE equipment, which doesn't require high power. It will set the maximum power budget to 30 watt. Okay, I think let's just go to check this picture. Let me put a chart on screen. The left side is the voltage. It increased from 0 volt to 60 volt. The bottom side is time being. The PD detection is the first stage I mentioned. Before the PoE switch or PoE injector send the power to the edge device, you need to make sure your edge device is support PoE. If we just connect this non-PoE equipment router to one of the PoE port, the PoE switch will not supply the power, but just data exchange. The PD classification allows this PoE switch to set the maximum power budget for your edge device. In this case, we have connected this camera, which only requires the 30 watt PoE plus to this 90 watt PoE port. And the PoE switch will set the maximum power budget from this port to 30 watt. This also answers one of the questions. If we just use the high power PoE switch, then we got the high power. That may not always true, because it also depends on your edge device. If your edge device doesn't support latest PoE specification, then we don't got the 90 watt high power. There's one more stage I didn't highlight in this chart. It's about the monitoring. During the power stage, the PoE switch or PoE injector will monitor the power state. If there any abnormal happen between this line or the camera, the PoE switch will shut down. If there's such as the short circuits, overvoltage, then the PoE switch will shut down. And you will start from the beginning to run the PoE detection, PoE classification, and try the power. So there's one interesting thing. If you experience the indicator just on and off, or your edge device keep rebooting, there could be something wrong with the link or the edge device, because the PoE switch will try to run all these 3 stages, but it will go back to run the circle. It realizes there's some problem with your edge device. I think according to this explanation, it's totally safe to use the IEEE 802.3 latest PoE standard. Just one more thing before I end up this video. What we're talking about here is the standard PoE. If you're just using the non-standard PoE or the passive PoE, it may be not safe, because the not standard PoE and passive PoE, it could remove all these 3 stages. It don't have the power detection, PD classification, and monitoring. It simply just inject the power to the cable directly. So what I mentioned in this video is all about the standard PoE. Alright, that's all for today's video. If you have any question, please post in comment section below. See you next time.